Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session with Becoming a Believer. This is a series we've been teaching, trying to get you into a place of not just believing in who Jesus was, but becoming an actual believer, because things happen in people's lives when they believe and trust in God. That's where I want to take a moment right now just to settle in, because this is not just another message. This is a defining message. Today, we're going to be talking about a message titled The Making of a Disciple, with a subtitle Living a Disciplined Life. And I believe with all my heart, this message can shift your direction, strengthen your walk, and awaken you into something great that God has placed inside you, and that is allowing you to waken up to something great in life. So stay with me, because this one does matter. So listen carefully to the words of Jesus in Luke chapter 9 and verse 23 when he says, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily and follow me." Notice daily, not occasionally, not when it feels good, not when life slows down, but daily. That word alone will separate the believer from the disciple. Okay, I have an anonymous quote here. Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Let this set in for a second. What do we want most? That is the tension of life. What feels good now or what builds your future later? This is what we're going after. We're going after something powerful in life. I know myself. I tell everybody that if God promises it, if God speaks of it, I want this. I want to see this in my life, and I want to see it in your life also. And that's where we're looking to take a good look today at just the making of a disciple, living a disciplined life. And this is powerful. And let's be honest, nobody is just sitting around hoping you succeed more than they hope for their own life. And that's not negative, that's reality. But here's where many people miss it. They wait for motivation, they wait for opportunity, they wait for someone to notice them. But a disciple does not wait. A disciple does not wait. A disciple goes after it. And that's what we're doing. A disciple moves. A disciple acts. A disciple understands. That following Jesus is not just about believing something, it's about becoming someone. That's what a disciple is. And that becoming requires discipline. And I've broken this down into 7 points that hopefully I can explain well to give us an understanding what this message is all about and what the makings of a disciple is all about. Point number 1. Discipline begins with daily decision. Discipline begins with daily decision. And in Joshua chapter 24 and verse 15, it says, "Choose you this day whom you will serve." He says, "Choose you this day whom you will serve." Discipline begins with a decision, not a feeling, not inspiration, a decision. Because if you wait until you feel like doing what's right, you'll rarely do what's right. I remember a man once told me, "I've been waiting to get closer to God for years." And I asked him, "What have you done daily?" He got quiet. Because desire without decision produces nothing. He wanted it, but he never chose it daily. And that's where you don't need more motivation, you need a decision. And once you decide, your life begins to align. Once you decide. Point number 2, you will find that no one owes you growth. You will find that no one owes you growth. Philippians 2 and 12 says, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling." Nobody owes you spiritual growth. Not your pastor, not your church, not your family. You must pursue it. You must pursue it. Imagine a young man joins a gym and he pays membership and he walks around, looks at the equipment, and then leaves. 30 days later, he stands in front of a mirror and says, "Why am I not stronger?" The gym was available, but he never engaged. And that's how many people treat God. That's how many people treat God. You can laugh about this, but it's not really funny. This is a serious thing. God has given you everything you need, but a disciple takes responsibility. It's you. You're the one that has to do this. I can't do this for you. Nobody can do it for me. It's our walk with God. To become a disciple, we have to take on the responsibility, not allow it to any church group or whomever and allow them to be responsible for our lives. It's us that has to take responsibility. This is where it's very difficult sometimes for pastors because everybody in the body of his believers places the responsibility on him. We have to take this as disciples ourselves. Point number 3, realizing that the battle is you versus you. Realizing that the battle is you versus you. And in Galatians 5:17, for flesh lusts against the spirit and the spirit against the flesh. The greatest battle in your life is not against someone else. It's you versus you. I heard a powerful story once about a grandfather speaking to his grandson, and he said, inside of you are two wolves. One is anger, laziness, and fear. The other is discipline, strength, and faith. And the grandson answered, which one wins? The grandfather said, and he leans over softly and says, the one you feed. The one you feed is the one who wins. Everyone has a choice to make today. You feed one version of you or you feed the other. The question is, which one are you feeding? Are you feeding your spirit? Are you getting into things that will feed you spirit? Is this the bread that cometh down from heaven daily and you're partaking of this bread and eating of this bread? Or are you feeding the flesh and doing the things the flesh likes to do? Because whichever one you're doing is going to direct and rule your life. And a true disciple knows for him or her to be strong in the things of God, you have to feed the spiritual wolf that's inside you. And that is the one that's going to be in control and leading you. Point number 4, stop chasing hype and start building character. Stop chasing hype and start building character. And in Romans chapter 5 verses 3-4, it says, tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. We live in a world that loves hype, but God honors character. There was a young athlete posting every day, talking about how hard he worked, but never improving. Meanwhile, another athlete said nothing, posted nothing, but trained every day in silence. One chased attention, the other built discipline. Guess which one succeeded? And that's where we have one question. Which one would succeed in your life? Are we trying to make a show of ourselves, a show of our life, make it something that everybody else is going to say, boy, this person is good and great and all this stuff? Or are we trying to develop some character behind the scenes, doing the things that nobody even knows about, but God does, and building something that God can work with? Because God isn't into the hype. You don't build your life for applause. You build it for results. And that's where God is wanting to build something out of you. He's trying to build a character in you that can withstand everything that's around you, not looking for the approval and hype and the applaud for a lot of people, but looking for a time with God where he will say, well done, my called, chosen, and faithful one. This is a disciple that has grown in the life of Jesus Christ. And point number 5, Learning to tune out the noise. Learning to tune out the noise. Psalms 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." There is too much noise, too many voices, too many opinions. Everywhere you go in this day and age, there is noise, 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 and opinions and everything going on. You know, voices, everybody says something. It's constantly going on. I spoke with someone who said, I don't know what God is saying. But when we talked, his life was filled with social media, news, distractions, opinions. And I told him, you don't have a hearing problem, you have a noise problem. And that's the way it is a lot of times with us. We fill ourselves with all this types of noise. And as a disciple, we need to turn the volume on some of this stuff. And that's where we're building something here. We are building, this is the making of a disciple. We are building something and we have to get it so that God can speak to us. And that's where we have to say something real carefully. If you want to hear God, you must quiet everything else. You must quiet it down. You must find the secret place, the quiet place, where you can meditate on God, where you can listen, where God can speak to you. Because God is trying to get your attention. In the making of a disciple, many times people have a hard time because God can't get their attention. Jesus would leave the crowd. He'd go up into a mountainous area or someplace and spend a good part of the night praying where he could hear his heavenly Father. When he said, come follow me, as a disciple, as a making of a disciple, we need to follow his direction, for he is the truth, the life, and the way that we need to follow. And that leads us to point number 6. Let your work speak for itself. Let your work speak for itself. And in Matthew 5:16, it says, let your light shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Your life should speak louder than your words. My dad used to say that to me all the time. He would say, actions speak louder than words. When I'd roll my eyes, he would say, you don't have to say anything. Your action is speaking out. And that's the way your life speaks louder than the words that come out of your mouth. I knew a man once who talked about his faith, but everywhere he went, people respected him. Why? Because he was consistent. He was a kind person. He was disciplined. He was reliable. In the making of a disciple, we need to realize that. It's our actions, it's the things that we do that prove who we are. Our life preaches to those that are around us. A lot of times we say that our life are walking epistles. People read us by how we respond, how we live life, the smile that we put on our face, how we treat them, how we make them feel when we're around. And that's where it's important. And that's where we need to realize don't need to announce your faith. You need to live it. This is something that you live every day. People around you can see what you do. They can respect you. They can treat you in great ways because they realize as a disciple, you are ministering to them. It's interesting because even going back in the days of the disciples, they didn't even have a New Testament with Jesus Christ. They were walking around with a New Testament Bible talking to people. No, people got to see them. The fact is, if you read in the book of Acts, they could tell who was with Jesus by their love for one another. They could see that Jesus was in them. It's the same thing. The making of a disciple is allowing Jesus to live inside you. And when we get ourselves connected with him, what happens is there's a switcheroo. There's a switch. The old me, hopefully, gets out and Jesus steps in. And all of a sudden, the people that see us no longer see the old, but they see the new. And they have respect because we have allowed something to work out in our life. That leads us to our last point here. Point number 7, it says, finding that consistency creates transformation. Finding that consistency creates transformation. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, it says, "Let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." And that's where we understand that transformation is not instant, it's consistent. It's what we consistently do. We consistently go before our Lord. The making of a disciple is someone that is disciplined enough where they're consistent daily in doing the things they need to do to allow a transformation to be done in their life. And that's what God is trying to do. It's much like a farmer that plants the seed, and for weeks, nothing, no growth, no results. But underneath the surface, something is happening. Roots are forming, strength is building, and one day it breaks through. One day it breaks through. It's the same thing in our lives. God is wanting to build something in your life. And if we can trust in Him and become the disciple that He wants us to be able to discipline our life in different ways and become consistent daily in doing things, to choose daily to do things, then there's going to be a breakthrough. Eventually, we're going to open up the ground, and they say that the seed breaking through the ground is powerful. Many times that ground is hard, but the seed finds a way. That's where energy inside of us will make the way, and there will be breakthroughs in our lives, but we don't quit. We are in the unseason sometimes because that's where transformation begins. And that's where, let me speak to your heart. Nobody owes you anything, but God has given you everything. And now the question is, what will you do with it? Will you wait or will you move? Will you stay the same or will you grow? Will you be a believer only or will you become a disciple of Jesus Christ? If this message has touched you, make one decision today, just one, and follow through. Become a disciple. Becoming a disciple is not made in a moment. They are made daily. That's where I pray God's blessing to be upon you. If this is something that someone else needs to hear, by all means, share it with them. God bless you, and I will see you next message.